it's like a craft, but I think it's a spiritually produced thing, or maybe the person actually becomes the flying vehicle or something.
Yes, there are examples like that. I'm not exactly familiar with that particular term, but there are examples of yogis or mystics who can transport themselves through space and time even by mental action or by mind ships, they're sometimes called. So yes, you're right about that. Those kinds of things are described, and there are different kinds of paranormal phenomena that people report of people being able to transport themselves instantly from place to place, or even appear at more than one place
Teleportation.
at the same time. Yeah, teleportation and bilocation and things like that.
Right, and is this supposedly using some system of portals or vortexes? Or
Yes, that's one possible explanation for it.
Well, we're at the top of the hour here, Michael Cremo, and we're going to take a quick 7-minute break. And when we come back, I'm going to ask you where Bigfoot and modern reports of ape men fit in with the story of man. Welcome back to Paranormality. We're having a discussion with Michael Cremo, author of Forbidden Archeology and Devolution, a Vedic alternative to Darwin's theory. Are you with us, Michael?
Yes, I am.
Okay, great.
Great to be back.
Now, the question I was going to ask you goes along kind of with one of my listener-generated questions. I have listeners email me, and the question is, you made a statement about conflict between modern and developing human species. Can they exist together? If not, can ape and man exist together without conflict, or can they? And of course, I'm adding to that, do they?
Well, of course, we see there's so much conflict in the world today. I believe it is possible that there could be a lot less conflict if we understood that within each human being and every animal, including apes and monkeys, there is a conscious self like that of our own conscious self. Because I think nationalism and race and gender and things like that are very superficial characteristics of the self. On the deepest level, I think we're all the same as conscious beings. And even according to the Vedic idea of reincarnation, it's the same kind of conscious self that exists in all living things. It just has a different vehicle. For example, as one person can ride on a bicycle and then get on a motorcycle and go faster, and get in a car and go faster, and then get on some four-wheel drive vehicle and drive off the road, or then get on a snowmobile and travel over snow, and then get on an airplane and fly up in the sky, or get on a boat and travel on the water and get in a submarine and then go under the water, or go in a space capsule to outer space. It's the same person, but according to the kind of vehicle it has, it can do different kinds of things. So the same soul, the same conscious self in different bodies can do different things. If the conscious self is in a bird body, it can fly. If it's in the body of a fish, it can swim under the water. If it's in the body of a human being, it can do all the kinds of things that human beings do. So I think if we had a better understanding of the true equality of all living things on the level of spirit, it would, I think, lessen the violence and competition that there is in the world today on so many different levels.
What would lessen that?
Well, like if you recognize someone as your kin, generally you're not going to be violent towards them usually. Sometimes that does happen, but usually your own kinfolk, you usually are a little more kinder to.
Yeah, you got to get
So
along
I think we
with
have to
them.
appreciate everybody as our kin.
Right. Even Bigfoot. Where
That's
does Bigfoot
right.
fit in with all this cosmology here?
Well, I brought that into my book, Forbidden Archeology, for the following reason. I was proposing, when we look at all the fossil evidence, if we look back in time, going millions of years, we'll see that the pattern that emerges is not one of evolution. Usually when you go into a museum, you usually see like the skeleton of the little ape man who becomes a little bit bigger and then bigger and then bigger and bigger, and finally you get human beings like us. It's a very linear kind of thing. But what I was proposing in my book, Forbidden Archeology, is you've got archaeological evidence that humans are not just present at the end, they're present in the beginning and the middle, too. So, yes, there were ape men that existed, there were ancient apes and monkeys, but alongside them, human beings were also existing. So I was proposing in those very ancient times, yes, ape men were there, apes and monkeys were there, and human beings like us were also there. But it may also be that we are coexisting not just with apes and monkeys today, but with ape men also. I mean, you got these commercials out there, from that car insurance company, that have to do with these funny ape men who are still with us.
Right.
But it may be a fact. It may not just be something that you see in the auto insurance company advertisements on TV. There's scientific evidence that we still may be sharing our planet with these ape men today. Of course, that takes you into the whole area of scientific research into the Sasquatch, the Bigfoot, the Yeti, the Snowman, and all that sort of thing.
Right, and whatever it is out there. I've had 2 physical sightings myself personally, and in fact I'm going to have Kiwani Lapsaritis on next week to discuss it.
Well, he's one of the world's experts on it, no doubt about it.
Absolutely, and I've experienced in my own personal experience, it seems to work generally the way that he says it works. So there's definitely a lot more to these creatures than just a animal.
I think you're right about that in this sense. Yeah, the ancient Sanskrit writings also speak of these ape men. It's very interesting that, mostly we think of ape men as an idea that the European scientists came up with around the time of Darwin. When he proposed his theory of evolution, well, they proposed there must have been some kind of missing link, between the ancient apes and monkeys and the modern human beings, and that's what they called ape man. So most people, they have the idea that this idea of ape men is a modern scientific idea, but if you go back thousands of years in these ancient Sanskrit writings, they were also speaking of ape men, but alongside them were coexisting human beings like us. So that coexistence may still be going on today. And one thing about these ancient ape men that are mentioned in these ancient Sanskrit writings is they had mystic powers, which meant you couldn't catch them very easily. And that may be one of the reasons why we don't have a Sasquatch in a museum today, although there are lots of sightings of them. And I think, as you're hinting, there is kind of a paranormal element to them as well. So that may be the reason.
Yeah, and there's a division in the world of both Bigfoot research and UFO research, ufology, that I guess it's kind of similar to the divisions you're used to. On one side, you've got science, and I guess you kind of live in the middle ground there somewhere.
Yeah, I would say on the middle, because
Yeah.
I think they both got something to contribute. But go ahead, go make your point. I'd like to hear what you got to say about it.
Yeah, there's definitely a paranormal aspect to Bigfoot, and a lot of researchers don't want to lose their credibility by focusing on
that aspect.
those kind of things. They just want to